And so here we are again. Thank you very much to everybody in those over 732 cities listening to us now in the podcast version of the program. Today we are premiering on YouTube our next episode on spectacular singing because Katya is not done with the Nightingales yet. We have had a Russian Nightingale from Alavievs in a previous episode, and today we are taking a look at how the Zarzuela gender is composing around a lovely nightingale.
Era una rosa en un jardín, larga de casto amor, por un ruiseñor.
Mientras un zángano. We're about to talk about that because maybe we are not going to talk about the complete text of the romanza. Remember that in Zarzuela, the solo parts are called romanzas, not arias as in opera. But we have shared in previous seasons that Zarzuela text, Zarzuela lyrics are going and going and going, contrary to Italian and other genders that usually repeat in structures A B A C or A B A B etc. Different mixes. In this case, the zarzuela may be repeating the theme, but the words keep changing. So the singer keeps singing and singing and telling and telling and telling the story till the end of the song. So that's why maybe we are not addressing. But why don't we start talking that this song is an excuse for the ornaments of the soprano, for the high notes of the soprano, of course. But moreover, they are. It is a cute little story because it's going to tell us sort of a flirting story between the rose and the nightingale. And the nightingale turns out not to be loyal. So this is sort of a soap opera in the narration of the soprano. And the truth is that not many people care about the words because they are just expecting the ornaments and the high notes. But for that reason, let me tell you that in fact there is a story here. And the story is very funny and the story is very nice. And that explains why the tone of the melody is. I'm not sure how to describe it because it's not like touching, like love, because I just said that this is a love story, but this is like sort of a funny, hilarious, cute love story, like a story you would tell to children, like a story for kids of how a nightingale or a rose has fallen in love for a nightingale and how things evolve. I think that looks pretty much like that. And the sound of the voice and the soprano here needs to be, hmm, how to describe it? Because it is not an Olympia, it's not Hoffman, and it is not uh, super emotional, but it is not Rossini either. How do you prepare for a song that tells a beautiful, cute, like a story for kids, Katia? What's in your mind when you prepare this romanza?
Well, when I approached to this romanza, my first impression was kind of, in Mexico we say, te lo digo Juan para que lo entiendas Pedro. It's a kind of telling something with an undertext. Yes, it is a flirting song, but it's Francisquita telling, well, if you don't pay enough attention to me, probably I will pay attention to somebody else, to another guy. So it's this kind of playfulness that makes that the song, the melody floats in this spicy but funny mood. So
Yeah,
it's not it's not sorry, it's not Rosina, but it's not that romantic or that cheesy. It's more like spicy. It's funny.
We even have the expression in Spanish. We're going to talk about the composer and the gender in a second, because it says graciosamente. And sometimes these notes that the composers leave on the scores can mean anything, because graciosamente may mean something to one singer and something different to others. There are singers that are naturally funny. For instance, to me, the faces that Nathalie Dessay, she's naturally funny. She's even a very she's more now an actress than a singer, and I like how she performed her role. So I can see doing this graciously, but I cannot see John Sutherland doing this grace. She's a
Not at
two
all.
meters woman with a
She's like a giant nightingale. So
yeah, yeah. So,
no,
but on the other hand, Nathalie Dessay is thin, with also with a very thin face and the nose, very very typical French appearance. So that makes more sense, physically speaking, with the sense of what graciosamente may imply. But I said that we were going to talk a second about the zarzuela. The zarzuela, we have also mentioned in other seasons that for many people is called the género chico, but if not derogatory, very close to derogatory, because people say, oh, if you sing zarzuela, it's because your voice is over, sort of things like that, or you do that only because you don't have good taste in music, or because you haven't given your chance to study Wagner. Because if you had studied Wagner, you have never sung zarzuela. And extreme examples like those. And you have also mentioned that it is true that not all zarzuelas are very complex. They also have spoken parts, just as the German Singspiel. So they also have parts where there are, in fact, also complete roles that are only spoken, and there are many roles that are easy to sing. But Doña Francisquita is not one of those. Doña Francisquita, in fact, for many is considered also an opera. Luisa Fernanda is another example that is also that rather be called an opera, and Marina should also be called an opera, with which I agree because the three of them are extremely complex. Marina, in particular, for the tenor is very difficult to find a tenor who can do a good job in Marina. But there is, so I said I agree because of the complexity, but I disagree because if you take them out of the zarzuela and put them into the opera, it's like saying, yeah, this is good quality, so the poor quality will continue to be called zarzuela. That's why I have mixed emotions with that. And so I wanted to mention it because you will notice, and as we are going to start going through the details of this beautiful romanza, that even though it is not as difficult, because there are harder pieces that Katia can achieve in the sense of the height, in the sense of the amount of ornaments and many requirements from the singer, but it is not also something that any soprano can do. So
it's not.
it is out of the reach of many. We are going to talk about the staccati sounds later ahead, but in particular, that series of sounds need to have, besides a perfect pitch, a very particular nice sound. And if you don't do that, the rest of your romance is lost. Nobody will care about the rest. So, but tell us from your perspective. Well, I know you have told us a dozen times that everything is easy. So, apart from that easiness, what would you say are, to start with, the main challenges for someone who is preparing or wanting to work on this romanza for her repertoire?
Well, usually everything is easy, but when I started to work with this piece, I was not in bachelor. I was studying well here
Private classes, right?
in yes. So it when I saw the highest notes was not the main problem, obviously for me, because it's part of my sound, but to feel the line, to place every vowel in the same space, in the same place, with the same purity, yeah, that was challenging. Well, we will be reading the score, and there are some high A's where I really suffered because this vowel it's not the most natural for me. For me, it's easy to sing on I, on E, but A was like, oh my god, I have to sing a high note with this vowel. Well, that was challenging, but for the rest, I think that it was worth for the word. Yes, I love this song.
So now that you mentioned about the vowels, thank you for mentioning that because what I was going to bring, and I opened with that, that the text, the lyrics keep going and going and going, provided that the soprano is telling a story. There are many words, and we have also mentioned, and that is particularly true for high sopranos, that high sopranos tend to forget the syllables and the consonants and may go only for the sounds, no? And then instead of
What is
say
the soprano saying? Nobody
nobody
knows.
knows, she's making a beautiful sound. So, but in this
Go
case,
ahead, woman.
but in this case, she's telling a story. So if her articulation of the sounds is not good, nobody's going. Apart that nobody might care about the content, but even worse if the soprano does isn't able to tell the story. Era una rosa que en un jardín. Also, by the way, we have mentioned that Italian is a language that comes easily for singing. Spanish, no, that easy. There are many combinations that really struggle with the emission and the vocal technique that are not so natural as it is Italian because you say era una rosa que en un jardín, but e a u a o a que e u a I. For people who study singing know that this implies basically we have produced all the vowels of Spanish in just the first phrase. While in Italian it would be maybe Ardon Vincenzi. You see, much easier Ardon Vincenzi. Even the flow of the vowels is easier. But we have changed the position our um, of all our system so that we can produce the sounds. And also, these are the Spanish sounds, which are not the same sounds in Italian and which are not the same sounds as we sing. Sometimes one of these sounds are more open, sometimes they are like, I would say, condensed. Some of them, like the E, are more brilliant because we don't have jardín. The E of the Spanish is not the same E as we sing. This E is brighter. So it is not that we want to make it over complex, but just want to point you in the direction that it is tricky to think that, it's just a text. Era una rosa que en un jardín. But think you are asking a high voice to produce all these sounds, and it's opening not in the comfortable area of her register because it is starting in the low part. Era una rosa. Yeah, after the first bar, it's much nicer because it's reaching the middle. Rosa que en un jardín. Comfortable. Next bar, comfortable. Next bar, comfortable. But after three bars later, then it starts to descend again. And you're still playing with the vowels in Spanish. So the articulation may be messy because and Katia mentioned it earlier that one of the nice things about John Sutherland is that even though she produces very difficult technical ornaments, she makes it seem easy. And so the purpose of the singer is also to make you feel that what is she's doing is easy. But in the mind of the singer, That's not what is happening. Because you say, por un ruiseñor, I went, me the soprano went for my lower register, then I need to go for the A, then may an acciaccatura, and then I have to do a crescendo, and it has to do legato. So things start, and you do it with an O. So how am I going to do so that the O and the acciaccatura sounds well? All those complex things are happening in the mind of the singer, so that when you hear her sing, you say, ah, it's easy and it's nice, and not always is easy. So anything that you would like to add in the production of the sounds and the vowels and the super
Yes,
long text?
yes, indeed. Something that we usually work in class is I choose a vowel that helps me to place my sound in the best place. For example, yes, okay, he, and I. When I feel comfortable and I feel that my sound is very placed and firm in this station, then I start and my students start to sing with the rest of the vowels of the text, but just the vowels. Placing all the vowels in the place where we felt this comfortable vowel. So it's interesting. You mentioned it, ignoring that is part of the class and part of the exercises we work with, but yeah, I recommend. I
And
recommend.
also, you mentioned something else that it is very important because you said about the placing of the sounds. Because believe it or not, the production of the vowels is what puts out of place of the sound. It might sound contradictory to people outside singing, but it is exactly the production of these vowels that may uh, at sometimes derail horribly the sound that you are producing because now you have to do this, it is vertical, it is opening horizontal, hey, now that you need to produce a hole inside of your mouth. So those things happening while you only see that the mouth is moving slightly and the lips, but internally the singer is doing this or this or this. And by doing all those changes, sometimes or many times the sound is affected. So,
Yes,
yeah, go ahead.
sorry. Every vowel has a specific place within our mouth, from the front to the back. E, e, ha, o, u. Um, all of them has different skills and different characteristics, but at the same time, we try with a technique to make that all the fortitudes of the five vowels we have in Spanish combine in just one single vowel, one single place, one single sound where we can place and they all sound like just one single piece, and it's easier to sing it like this because if I place vowels in its natural place, no, that's not gonna work.
No, that's not going to work for the purposes of singing because what we are aiming at, moreover, at the Italian school of singing, is the homogeneity of the sound. So it is completely unacceptable, as Katia mentioned, how the sound is keeps going everywhere because of the vowels, and that's one of the painful things about singing in Spanish. Fortunately, we move on. So we have mentioned, era una rosa que en un jardín languidecía de un casto amor. So we have a flower that in a garden, you know, is longing. Well, it is here called a chaste love. It is only an expression. So, uh, and we're about to learn about for whom, because it is por un ruiseñor. The nightingale appears. So the nightingale has made the rose fall in love for him. So this cute little bird has conquered the heart of the rose. And when he appears, we know it because it is the first time that even it is just an achacatura. It is the first time there is an ornament in the romanza. And it has a purpose, señor, because otherwise we wouldn't notice that the nightingale arrived. And the composer Maestro Amadeo Vives tells us, hey, the nightingale is here. Ah, well, it is oh, ah. And so that's how it arrives here. And the story goes, mientras un zángano zumbador a enamorarla desde el panal. There is another, I was telling you that this is like a story, and also Katia has explained that. Okay, so the flower is in love for the nightingale. And there is another insect, the sangano, which I don't know how to translate it into
Like
English.
a male bee.
Male bee, the worker bee, I don't know. One of the types of bees that there
Yeah,
are.
yeah.
So one of the bees, zumbador, so that makes this sound. So that guy wants to wants to make the flower fall in love for him. So there is the rose in love for the nightingale. And there is this Sangano trying to make the rose fall in love for him. So you see, we have a triangle of love. So that's what the story is going to be about. So he wanted to make her fall in love from the bee house. Todas las tardes venía al rosal. So of course he knows that he has to make presents, right? The Sangano needs to go every day by the rose and stand by and say, hey girl, I'm here. So if you see this, as we were sharing, this is a cute, nice story of this love triangle that we have learned so far. And we also need to mention that the music is very playful. The music here accompanies when orchestra or in this the piano, tan taran tan tan taran tan 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 taran tan 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 taran tan tan tan. So it plays very well in accompanying the voice of the soprano, so that we know that the two of them are working together in producing this lovely piece of music. What comes next? Y al ver la rosa que el ruiseñor amor sentía por otra flor. Guess
Jesus
what?
Christ.
True story
Why?
again. The rose that is in love for the nightingale has just noticed that the nightingale wants or is in love for another flower. So the rose has chosen the wrong guy. How many times have we seen that happen?
We've been there.
We've been there, we've done that. So okay, so so poor flower, poor rose, for having chosen the nightingale who is in love for another girl, another flower. And al zángano infeliz cuando venía a la rosa decía, ese ruiseñor. And here's where the part that everybody loves is about to start, because we are going to learn that this bee, the zángano, that is so unhappy because the rose is not answering or it's not favoring him in love, so he would approach the rose. So when he approached the rose, he would tell the rose that nightingale, ese ruiseñor, is gossiping about him. You know, people like to do that. Let me tell you that you, the guy you are in love with, ese ruiseñor. But here is in piano. Notice that there is the notation for piano. So it is not open. Ese ruiseñor fuerte. It is Between you and me, ese ruiseñor. You see, I am telling you about that Nightingale. Ese ruiseñor, and it is repeated. Ese ruiseñor soberbio cantarín. And notice how um, the writing ruiseñor soberbio y cantador. That's how uh, the Maestro Vives is telling the singer what she needs to emphasize. That's what these notations means. And of course, a good singer knows that she cannot sing Ruiseñor soberbio y canta. It is not that. So Kata is going to give us an example on how this has to be done because this is very important because it is adds to the magic of the romanza.
Ese ruiseñor, ese ruiseñor soberbio y campante.
And that, with that series of sounds, it has captured our attention, or the Sangano has captured the attention because that nightingales, that it is, oh, I just forgot how you say soberbio. How do you say soberbio? We need to ask internet for that word. How do you say soberbio? Let me see. Soberbio. And it's going to be a word that I know. I know. Proud. Of course, proud. So the nightingale that is so very proud and who loves singing, and you have to do it in tone of gossiping, that nightingale that is so proud and likes to sing, cuando tú no estás, when you are not there, my dear Rose, when you are not there, cuando tú no estás, Señor, en el jardín viene a mí rosal y en esta rama me dice que me ama, me dice que me ama, me dice que me ama. Y aunque creo yo, creo que con su pico miente jamás, jamás cantó un trino, un gorjeo tan valiente. And then start singing. So she says, when you're not there, the nightingale comes here and it's flirting, comes here to this rose and starts singing so beautiful. And even though I think this nightingale is lying, truth is that he sings so beautiful that I render to his singing. So I think we have seen that the handsome boy, the handsome guy who knows that just by appearing close to a girl, know he's going to conquer her. So he appears to be charming while he's still thinking of somebody else. So that's the story that we are learning about. I don't think this part, we're about to reach the ornaments, but I don't think, except you, Katia, tell me different. I think this one, except for keeping the intention um, uh, of the romanza, that you continue flowing. Except for that, I don't think there are many challenges, vocally or technically speaking, in this part, from my perspective. But it is not my
Well,
romanza, so
that's a plan. Well, I think that probably the main challenging part here could be to keep the pitch because sometimes when you have to sing several times the same pitch, if you are not in the best impostation for your sound, the pitch uses to come down, and well, that's risky. It could be risky also to sing it like an staccato because indeed, if you check the score in this part, it's the bar 61. The notes doesn't have the little point on the highest part of the notes, so it's not staccato. In the bar 62, the piano is already marked with staccato, but for the voice, it's not until the bar 65.
65.
in this bar, well, you have to make the difference. So to make this contrast, because it's not legato, but it's not staccato. So how the hell I'm gonna sing this?
In fact, that's the question that I wanted to make you. If you're listening to this program and you are not an expert in singing, okay, you say that is not staccato, which are these short, cute little notes. Ta, 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 ta. That's not going to be staccato, but it is not a continuous note. It is not, oh, that is not that note either. So, why could a composer, and I was reading a little about music theory earlier, with recommendations for composers. Yes, please, composers, take into account many recommendations when writing your music. Uh, I remember that the author of the book was saying for the composer, think of the person who is reading your music, because if he has problems in understanding your music, then he will have, if he for some reason loses concentration while performing it, instead of making his life easy, you're going to complicate it. So if you come, just assuming, because that may not be the case, that you were running out of breath on that day, you're dry, or you're losing your pitch because maybe your throat is a little dry, or you didn't sleep well for whatever the reason, and you go for this for staccati, you say, and then you say, no, wait, this was not staccati. What was it? What was I supposed to be doing here? How would you? I know that the advice would be, well, read. If there is no point there, then it is not staccati. But do you have any other recommendation for the singer? Because the composer, it is a gruppetti, and the composer didn't choose to make it, for example, I forgot the name of that in English again. Well, to use a notation, instead of using this gruppetti, he could have written it in a different way. But this looks different, or the sensation for the singer is that he has to produce 5 notes for each of the gruppetti. That's the immediate impact that this has. But that is exactly true, but later, until 65, when you're actually going to make something different for the voice. So, how do you advise to the singer who is studying it to place the voice for the bar 61?
Well, I think that I can't understand the difference between this bar and the 65 in the way I used to articulate the sound. Um, for the height of the pitch, the both bars are in similar places. Um, but in the 61 bar, I think that I can articulate um, every note in a higher place articulation, not impostation. Uh, when I sing an staccato, the cuts are deeper from my diaphragm, and indeed it sounds different
Which, of course, you say it is easy. I know that you're going to say it is easy.
because it was. Did you see? Did I make an effort? I didn't.
But it has to be conscious. And many singers do not go for doing this different articulation of the sound, because they say, well, why complicating my life when people are just expecting these notes to sound, right?
Because it's a beautiful song. It's written like this because of a reason. If you can work and challenge yourself and develop different ways to approach and make this kind of effects, why not?
And a little ahead, before we are actually staccati, we go for the next bar 63, and we have the same number of notes, because it is, in a way, this The writing of these ornaments is, if not say, I wouldn't like to say like repeated or mm, predictable, but at least to say that they are done in the same way. You are changing the height of the notes, but you are doing two groups of five each time. So that should help the singer to say you just need to worry about the height. Not it is not Rossini that makes an ascending scale, then descending scale, then you have a chacatura, then you have this, then you have a tri. Don't do all of those horrible things that Rossini puts you to test. It's just focus on your pitch, focus on your notes, and you are going to do okay. He's not even changing the tempo. I haven't so far. We haven't seen any change in the tempo. So it could be like prum 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 ta 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 in a very precise way of doing or the emission of the sounds from my perspective. Unless Katia would you like to suggest something different besides the focus on the height of the notes? I think we are not listening your audio, Katia. Uh,
Am I?
yeah, you're
It's,
back. Yeah.
okay, yeah, thank you. It could be a little tricky because when you don't have to hold a high note for a very long time, it could seem easy. Yes, it's easier than this high pitch longing, probably 5 bars. But if you don't sing the 5 notes in the same place, in the same pitch, you are gonna screw the melody and the pace. So be very careful of singing the 5 notes as one single one.
Because also, it is now for us to talk about the quality of the sound. We were mentioning at the beginning of the program that even though these sounds may not be the most challenging ornaments for a high tessitura soprano, they are from the side of the spectator because they are expecting these sounds to be. I was looking for. I'm not sure if saying that this should sound like a crystal, like a triangle. I'm not sure how to describe it, but the sound has to be hmm like rich, bright, beautiful,
Pure,
produced
yes.
purity, a beautiful purity of sounds, because also many sopranos who have problem with placing their voices sing only or produce a sound that is much closer to the falsetto where no actual vibration is sound, and it sounds awful. Again, I am not going to give any names of sopranos, but there are many sopranos that sing and their sound is like a falsetto and it sounds horrible. And this series of notes, these groups of five, are expected to sound very, very beautiful. That's what captivates us. Yes, maybe the nightingale is flirting with another flower. Yes, the sangano wants to have the rose, and the rose is still falling in love for the nightingale. But everybody's expecting these notes to sound beautiful. With that in mind, because one thing is that you have, okay, this is an A flat. Okay, I have to sing a series of G's or whatever or C sharps, whatever are the notes here. So you know that is, you know how to play some, but in the back of your mind, but also I have to make them sound beautiful and attractive because otherwise people is not going to buy my performance of this romance. Do you work anything in special to produce that sound? Do you record yourself and correct or and look for something else to do differently? Or how are you sure that you're producing the the type of sound that you want for these ornaments?
Well, to sing should be as easy as is to talk. If you have to effort a lot, if you have to make a trick and still doesn't sound as it should, probably, well, you should check if this piece is for your voice in the first place, because probably it's not sounding as a crystal or as beautiful as we all expect to, and that's the minor of your problems, because if nothing is working, I think that probably your kind of voice is for a different repertoire. Probably this is not for you. It's a high note, yes, but if it's for your voice, well, it will not be complicated.
It will sit nice in your the current spectrum or range of the notes that you can cover. But if you're doing something weird, like making your voice thinner and messing with your whole instrument to just you say, "Oh my God, how I'm going to do these nine notes in a C sharp and make them," and you feel like you're being strangled. It's probably too high for you to make those sounds comfortable. You're expected to produce them very, very comfortably. And if you're reaching those notes and your voice sounds como un fil di voce, like you're
Yes.
just like "Uh," like being strangled, it's not for you. And I know it is difficult for a soprano to accept, but you have to say, but I know I'm a soprano leggero. You can be a soprano leggero, but that doesn't mean that you're a high soprano, able to reach the high coloratura. Leggero, because many people are mistaken about that a soprano leggero. Ah, yeah, Gilda is a soprano leggero. Ah, this one is a soprano leggero. Then La Reina de la Noche is a soprano leggero. No, La Reina de la Noche is not a soprano leggero. More when we reach that area, we will talk about that. In fact, it meets a heavy voice. It requires something that exactly a leggero does not have. And so that would be the case for this series of ornaments. But let's keep moving with the text. So the story goes and says que el pobre zángano más infeliz, aunque más viejo que aquella flor, we go back to this bee, who is so unhappy and is even older than the flower, he called the nightingale. And again, the same type of achacatura in the presentation, Ruiseñor. Again, we have going back to the same way it was presented. So he called the nightingale para quejarse de su actitud y amenazarle con su aguijón. So he said, "Hey, you, cute little boy, come here. I'm going to, I'm telling you that you have to change because otherwise I'm going to sting you." So there is violence already in the story, as you can see. Si no sabía acallar su pasión. So you're going to behave or what? It's basically what he's telling the nightingale. But from that day on, desde el día que él supo el ruiseñor de la rosa ser tierno trovador. But the nightingale didn't want to get to risk. He didn't want to be stung by the bee. So from that day on, the nightingale was tender in singing to the flower. We also say in Spanish, el miedo no anda en burro. So he said, I'm not going to risk myself. Debbie is very much capable of doing that to me, so I'm not risking myself. So I'm going to be nice to the flower. Well, at the end, what's the wrong in that? Y enfrente del rosal, desde aquel día, el pájaro decía. And here is what there is a more short participation of the tenor 2 or 3 times during the romance. And I was telling Katia that, okay, fellow dear tenors, you have to understand that these are the 5 minutes where this is all the attention on the soprano. If you're going to participate here, you have to do it with the right sound. Because we come from watching a video with Placido Domingo where he makes it. Horrible. He usually exaggerates everything. And in this case, he again exaggerates because after the first part, the tenor is supposed to say, "Y después, ¿qué pasó?" Asking like, and then what happened then? It's just a question. And what happened then? And the tenors go like it was I don't know, Caño. No, pagliaccio, y después, ¿qué pasó? It is not después, ¿qué pasó? You are not to be saying that. You come from a beautiful melody that. Tan, 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 and then the tenor, y después, ¿qué pasó? It goes completely out of place. So if you're invited, if you're part of Doña Francisquita or you're in a concert and the soprano is singing this part, understand you are only going to ask like you're telling me a story and then what happened y después qué pasó and you are and in some other later parts repeating what she's saying but you're still a secondary voice but way too many times the tenors continues, Este ruiseñor que... And no, it's not a competition of volume and sounds. You're like an echo. You're like when somebody's telling you, like, and you know what he did? What did he do? The nightingale. Oh, the nightingale. It's just that you're not comparing. The nightingale is no. So please, tenors, if you're doing it, if you're supporting a soprano while she's presenting it, understand you are secondary. Your voice is only going to allow the flow of the melody move on. I know that competing with sopranos is one of the favorite sports between tenors and sopranos, but please don't do it here. You're going to mess the complete romanza that goes in a very beautiful flow with your sound and your energy out of place. Well, I needed to get that out of my chest because I have heard many versions of it from many great tenors, and 99% of them think they are singing canio instead of just supporting the voice of the soprano. Okay, so we said, desde aquel día el pájaro decía, este ruiseñor prendado está de ti. Cómo pudo ser si nunca vino aquí? So from that day on, this nightingale has fallen in love for you, my Rose. How could it be possible? Well, we know he was menaced by the bee. So, like true love, it is not true love. It's just that he didn't want to be stung. So that's
The fear is a very important motivation.
yeah, he's motivated by fear. Me dice que te ama, me dice que te ama. And then that's where the final part comes. That is a series of repetitions. Y aunque creo yo que con su pico miente jamás, jamás, jamás canto un trino ni un gorjeo tan valiente. And then repeats the series of ornaments as we mentioned before with a variation that now we are going to have at the end as I am putting it on the screen, that it is like I don't know what your understanding is of this part because you come from making this series of fives, the groups of fives, staccati or not, but then you go like slowing down, but this you come from ta 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 tan 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 and ta tan 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 tan. It's like the melody of Maestro Amadeo Vives is driving you to a conclusion. Like you are now slowing down. From your thoughts, how do you perceive this final part of the romanza?
Well, probably you're already I forgot the word suspirando. You're whispering. You're like everybody loves or almost everybody loves happy endings. So the rose is already in this lovely relationship with the nightingale. The bird is singing now for the rose.
have to mention that your high notes comes from a piano that increases in volume to a fortissimo, to a double F, and that you keep for as long as you want. And we have to come back now to the dilemma of what you can do and what is good taste. Because the Calderone is sometimes read, the fermata is read by many singers as until you exhaust the last ounce of air inside your lungs. That's what they usually read, no? And we can take the joke around the tenors, the pensier. You know, they will go for the pensier until they run out of, even if they pensier. Like, but then people see that I lasted 5, 6, or 7 seconds. But it is unnatural because la donna mobile tan tan pensier. If you keep it for maybe 3, maximum 4, it's okay. But if you just want to show off, that would be the case for this one. If you come from tan 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 tan, but you keep a super long high note just to prove that you have the maximum capacity of your lungs, I think it loses effectiveness.
Yes, because it's not the last note. You have another three notes ahead. The final one is a B. So yes, this C sharp it's important, of course. There's a formata for a reason or many, but don't take all the attention in this note because then your final note will be lack of importance. So think.
And also notice that not only your high note was in double F, in fortissimo, but the final notes are also in double F. So you are not expected to seem exhausted. You are expected to produce, if not the same height of the note in terms of pitch, at least with the same energy. So make sure that you didn't put everything in your previous note and that you have nothing to offer to wrap your presentation. That would be, I think, a final word of advice. If it makes sense, would you like to add anything else? The time went running. We are almost an hour. The time really ran fast today. We really have fun learning about the nightingale and the rose and the bee and the triangle of love and all of that. But anything else that you would like to advise to people?
No, I think that we have talked about the main points in this song. Enjoy and please, in this song or any other song you have to approach or you want to feel comfortable. If you're not, probably it's not there.
And to wrap up today's program for people watching it on YouTube, because it's going to be transmitted on the podcast platforms until the end of January, I think. Or is this one? Yeah, it is going to be until the end of January because on this 20th of December, it's out the Alaviev's Nightingale for the podcast people. So people on the podcast will learn about this program on the 2025. But for people who will be watching it on YouTube, we are working on a very special surprise for everybody on the first days of January. So keep an eye on YouTube and on Telegram because we are going to be announcing it very, 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 very shortly. We are working on the final details of it, and so we know you're going to love it. We are going to love it from our side. With that being said, thank you, everybody. Thank you very much. Thank you, Katia. Take care.
Thanks.